Have you ever loved your family, but felt your body change the moment you were about to be around them? Not hatred, not indifference, not even anger sometimes, just a quiet tightening, the kind that starts before anyone says anything. A message appears on your phone. Dinner this weekend? A family birthday? A holiday visit? Someone says, it'll be nice to have everyone together. And part of you wants to feel happy. Because you do love them, you remember certain moments, the old jokes, the familiar voices, the food, the way some places still feel connected to childhood, even when childhood was complicated. So you tell yourself, it's fine. It's just family. I'm probably overreacting. But then something happens. Your shoulders get tense. Your breathing changes. You start preparing yourself for conversations that have not happened yet. You imagine the questions, the tone, the small look no one else notices. And before you even arrive, you are already tired. That is the part most people do not understand. Sometimes the hardest family pain is not dramatic. It is not always shouting. It is not always one huge event. Sometimes it is the quiet feeling of becoming smaller in a room where you are supposed to feel safe. You walk in as an adult, but somehow, after a few minutes, you feel younger, more careful, more quiet, more aware of what not to say. You laugh at things you do not find funny. You explain less. You swallow more. You become the version of yourself that knows how to keep the peace. And later, when you finally leave, you may not even know why you feel so drained. Nothing terrible happened. No one screamed. No one called it trauma. But your body feels like it has been holding its breath for hours. If this already feels familiar, leave one quiet word below. Understood, because this is where the confusion begins. How can you love them and still feel relief when plans get canceled? How can you miss them, but feel overwhelmed when they are close? How can you still care and need distance to feel like yourself again? Most people will try to make this simple. They will say, if you love your family, you should want to be around them. But human emotions are rarely that simple. Because sometimes love is still there, the memories are still there, the guilt is still there, but so is something else. Something your mind keeps trying to explain away. Something your body seems to understand before you do. Maybe the question is not, do I love them? Maybe the deeper question is, why do I stop feeling like myself around them? Because you do not always stop loving your family. Sometimes you just stop feeling safe inside the role they remember you in. People make family sound simple. They say things like, but they're your family. As if that sentence should erase everything your body has been trying to tell you. As if love automatically means comfort. As if blood should make every room feel safe. And when you cannot explain why being around them feels heavy, you start questioning yourself. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I am ungrateful. Maybe I am making something out of nothing. So you try harder. You show up. You answer the call. You sit at the table. You smile at the right moments. You tell yourself this time will be different. And maybe for a while it is. No one says anything obviously cruel. No one raises their voice. No one does something dramatic enough for you to point to and say, this is why I feel this way. But still, something inside you starts shifting. You become careful with your words. You soften your opinions. You avoid certain topics. You sense the mood of the room before anyone names it. You know, when someone is annoyed by the way they close a cabinet, you know when a joke is not really a joke. You know when silence means something is being held back. And somehow, without deciding to, you return to an old position. The one who became responsible, quiet, easy, and emotionally fluent in everyone else. This is why the outside world often misunderstands it. From the outside, it looks like distance. It looks like coldness. It looks like someone avoiding their own family for no reason. But from the inside, it feels different. It feels like trying to keep your inner footing in a room full of people who still remember how manageable you used to be. And that is the part no one sees. Sometimes family does not hurt because they do not know you. Sometimes it hurts because they remember a version of you too well. The version who stayed quiet, needed little, and kept everyone comfortable. So when you begin to change, when your voice becomes clearer, when your boundaries become harder to ignore, the room may not know what to do with you. They may call it distance. They may call it attitude. They may say, you have changed. But underneath that, what they may really mean is, you stop becoming easy. And when people say, just go, It's family. They do not understand what they are asking. They are not just asking you to visit. They are asking you to re-enter an emotional system your body may have spent years trying to leave. And maybe that is why distance can feel confusing, because part of you misses them, but another part of you remembers what closeness used to cost. And this is where the psychology becomes clearer, because your reaction may not be about one dinner, or one phone call, or one comment. It may be about what your nervous system expects when you are back inside that family system. Your mind may say, nothing bad is happening, but your body may be saying, I remember this place. Not just the house, the voices, or the faces. The pattern, the emotional weather, the way tension enters the room before anyone names it. The way someone's mood can quietly become everyone's responsibility. The way one person can shift the atmosphere, and suddenly your whole body knows what role to play. This is why being around family can feel so confusing. You are not only responding to who they are now, you are responding to who you had to become around them before. Maybe you learned to become quiet, not because you had nothing to say, but because speaking honestly created problems. Maybe you learned to become helpful, not because you never needed help, but because being useful felt safer than being needy. Maybe you learned to read faces, because someone's mood could decide the rest of the day. Over time, your nervous system made a map. What to say, what to hide, and when to become easy. So years later, even if you have changed, even if you have built a life outside that environment, your body may still remember the old map. That is why one sentence can make your chest tighten, why one tone can send you back 10 years, why one family gathering can make you feel like a child again, even though you are not a child anymore. You are not weak for reacting. You are not dramatic for feeling drained. Your body may be responding to emotional patterns your mind keeps trying to minimize. And this is the twist. You may not be afraid of seeing them. You may be afraid of emotional regression, not clinically, not as a term, in the lived way, the way one familiar voice can pull an older version of you back online, the way your body returns to old rules before your mind has time to disagree, the way you suddenly know where to sit, what to avoid, when to soften your voice, and how much of yourself the room can handle. Because family does not only bring back memories, sometimes family brings back roles. And when you step back into that role, even for a few hours, it can feel like losing access to the person you fought so hard to become. If this is helping you understand yourself a little more, you can share it with someone who might need language for this feeling too. Because sometimes the body says no before the heart is ready to admit why. And maybe that no is not hatred. Maybe it is memory. And underneath all of this, there is usually a wound that is hard to name, because it does not always look like one. Sometimes the wound is not that your family never loved you. Sometimes they did, just not always in a way your nervous system could feel as safety. Sometimes they loved you in the only language they knew. A plate left on the table, a long day at work, a quiet sacrifice no one ever explained. But love that keeps you alive does not always know how to make you feel emotionally safe. And that is what makes it complicated. Because if they were only cruel, it might be easier to understand. But when love comes mixed with pressure, when care arrives with guilt, when closeness quietly teaches you to edit yourself before anyone even asks, your heart does not know what to do with that. One part remembers the good, another remembers the cost. Maybe you were loved when you were useful, praised when you were easy, accepted when your needs did not disturb the room. And slowly, without realizing it, you learned that love could exist without enough space for your full self. So now, when you are around them, the pain is not only about what they say, it is about the way your body starts preparing before your mind catches up. Your voice softens. Your opinions become safer. You hold back the sentence that would have been too honest for the room. And slowly, you become easier to be around, but less like yourself. That is why a normal conversation can leave you exhausted. Because you are not just talking, you are editing yourself, protecting peace, watching for disappointment, trying not to trigger the old feeling that your truth creates distance. And after a while, that kind of closeness does not feel like closeness anymore. It feels like performance. And the deepest wound is not always rejection. Sometimes the deepest wound is having to perform acceptability around people you wanted to be safest with. That is the part that hurts quietly. You may still want their approval, still hope one day they will understand, still imagine walking into the room without bracing, where your sensitivity is not treated like a problem, where your boundaries are not treated like betrayal. But each time you get close, something old wakes up. The child in you still wants closeness. The body in you still remembers the cost, and that is the conflict. You are not only choosing between distance and family, you are choosing between connection and constantly editing yourself. Because closeness can start feeling like translation until almost nothing honest remains. And maybe that is why you pull away. Not because you stopped caring, but because some part of you finally understood. Love should not require you to keep rewriting yourself to be accepted. So the truth may not be as simple as people make it. You can love your family and still need distance. You can care about them deeply and still feel your body exhale when you finally leave. You can miss them and still know that being too close pulls you back into a version of yourself you are trying to outgrow. That does not make you cold. It does not make you selfish. It does not mean you are ungrateful. It means something inside you has started to recognize the difference between love and safety. Because love explains why you still care, but safety explains why your body needs space. And for a long time, you may have blamed yourself for that. You may have thought, why can't I just be normal? Why can't I just enjoy being around them? Why do I feel tense when nothing obvious is happening? But your body was not arguing with reality. It was returning to a room it had never fully forgotten. It remembered the sentence you changed before it left your mouth, the smile that appeared while another part of you stepped back, the calm voice that was never calm, only safer. And now, distance feels painful because it comes with guilt, but closeness feels painful because it comes with self-abandonment. That is why this is so hard. You are not choosing between love and hate. You are choosing between the part of you that still wants connection and the part of you that is finally asking not to pay for it with yourself. If this felt personal, leave one quiet word below. Me too. And if this helped you understand yourself on a deeper level, consider subscribing to Cortex Psychology. Because here, we do not call every reaction weakness. Sometimes we learn to ask what the reaction was protecting, and this may be what your distance has been protecting. It was not punishment, and it was not coldness. It was not proof that your love was gone. It was something quieter than that. The part of you that had finally learned there was air outside the role you were given. Every time you got too close, some quiet part of you started preparing to make the old bargain again. That is why you pulled away. Not because you stopped loving them, but because love kept asking you to abandon yourself. Healing may not mean returning to every room that shaped your pain. Sometimes it means standing outside that room and not walking in as the old version of yourself. You think about them, and the love is still there, but the panic is not as loud. The old role reaches for you, and for the first time, you do not step back into it. You can love them, you can remember the good, and still protect the person you became after you left. Because the distance did not prove your love was weak, it proved your nervous system finally told the truth. And maybe you did not leave your family. Maybe you left the role that kept you small,